Hey everyone, this is Michael Siegenthaler with this next tutorial of Skits. As per usual, I'll start out with a sock eraser to get rid of all those heavy marks and just dull down the entire drawing after I've done a tracing. Mark making is crucial. You can tell a lot about an artist just by the marks that they put down on the paper. Mark making is something that really can't be learned. It just comes with practice and experience and becoming confident in what you're doing, knowing what you're doing. Some of the artists that I look to in comic books that have some really good mark making is Dave McKean. I mean, he's all-time fave. Most people really like Dave McKean's work. You can't go wrong with that. Some of the newer stuff, he's gotten really more into illustration, but his comic book work had some really nice mark making. Kent Williams. Kent Williams is top. He's exactly the type of artist that I thought myself to be when I was in college. He does a lot of mixed media, a lot of painting. His mark making and his pencils. If you can find some books that has his pencil work, it's just incredible. Love his pencil work. In the illustration world, I mean, you can look everywhere and find really good illustrators. Someone that I really enjoy looking at for mark making is Peter DeSive. Peter DeSive just does some really pretty drawings. They're simple, but at the same time, you can tell just by his mark making that the guy's been doing it his entire life, and he's just an excellent resource to look at. Someone else in the illustration world, but also does a lot of comic book stuff over in Europe, is Frazzato. He's his work is just incredible. Love looking at his sketchbooks. If you can find one of his sketchbooks online, go ahead and grab it. There's one particular one that's really nice, but it usually sells for a lot of money. When it first came out, it was $20, and people keep trying to sell it for $80, $90. It's if that's what it's going for, I guess that's what you got to pay. But if you look around, you can find someone every now and then on eBay selling it for a little bit cheaper, especially if it's a little beat up, which who cares, because you're going to be rifling through it all the time just to kind of check out his work. Over the last 10 to 20 years, a big place that I've been looking at for art is concept art for movies, games. It's a world where really all the talent is gobbled up at right now. Some of the people I like to look at is Ian McHugh. I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm not exactly sure of some of these names. Kung Lee, Phoenix Yoon, Felix Yoon, Mike Yamada, just to name a few more. Just incredible artists, especially over in the Asian countries. They got great programs over there. Here in the United States, they're actually starting to dwindle the arts programs in the high schools, and it's not too good. At the high school I went to, after I left, about 2 years after I left, they completely did away with the drawing programs, the traditional arts. So, confidence in mark making. Confidence in mark making is extremely important. You just need to go out there and have some fun when you're drawing, and the confidence will come. You'll see your pieces get better, and don't worry about it. Don't be afraid of a blank piece of paper. Don't be afraid of recording audio like what I'm doing right now. This is a big thing for me. I'm not used to doing this sort of thing, but I'm going out there and I'm doing the best I can and just having fun with it. Um, Hopefully, you guys can get something out of it at the same time. When I decided I would start actually doing these drawings and showing them online, I wanted to start somewhere simple. What you're seeing me do in this piece right here is just basic parallel line technique. I'm going around, I'm trying to find the form, and I'm actually just making parallel lines that give shape to the form. Parallel lines is actually something that I do when I'm doing my sketches or warm-ups in the morning. Before I actually sit there and start drawing in a piece, I'll go into just a scrap piece of paper or something like that and spend a minute or two just doing parallel lines, just nice and fast, loosening up, not afraid to touch the paper. This this really gets you going in the morning. So once you do hit your paper, you're not unconfident with what you're actually going to be putting down on it. When I'm working on a drawing of this scale, what I like to start with is the midground. It's just like when you see a painter put down a wash and start off with. Even with Bob Ross, you would see this a lot of times. He would throw down a wash just to get a mid-tone going and then work up and down from that. And what I'm doing here is basically the same thing. I'm doing the mid-ground with a standard H pencil. Once I'm done with the mid-ground, what I'll do is I'll start to move to the background, doing it with a lot lighter pencil, about a 2H, maybe a 4H is what I'll use on that. Uh, Mainly 4H really, and I want it to just have a nice light look to the background. There's going to be a lot of light in this scene, so everything in the background is just going to be really faded out, washed out, and that's the technique that I'll try and get with the pencil once I get to that. I want to finish up with the foreground. I'm going to be using a heavy inking in the foreground to really show the depth from the foreground to the background. This is something that I feel a lot of comic artists are lacking in, which is using all the materials to them to create a lot of depth. The comic book industry traditionally has always just been an ink and color type place, especially with years ago. That's pretty much all they could represent. You'd have to use a dark ink to have the drawing show up, and then they would do simple coloring on top of that or behind it. It was had to do with the printing techniques at the time. You could only achieve so much. Today, our printing techniques and the papers and the inks that we use are, in a lot of ways, far more advanced. So you can actually do a lot more with it, and I just feel like a lot of comic arts or comic companies, I'm not sure uh, exactly how this is done, but I feel like they're missing out on a wide range of art opportunities. You can do stuff from a really, you're starting to see it actually change though, especially with the coloring. The colorists have really kind of stepped forward to kind of do something here. They're trying to get a lot more depth in the pieces. But in the actual drawing itself, there's only a few artists that are taking advantage of creating a lot of depth in their pieces. With skits, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and do a three-tier system where you have a foreground, middle ground, and background. The foregrounds will have heavy inks. The middle ground will have a lot of really nice pencil work, real detail, and then the backgrounds will be a little more washed out, almost like I'm using ink washes or something like that, but I'll be achieving it with pencils. So as you can see, I started working on some of those hills in the background, and what I'm doing is, if you actually go out in nature and look, and if you're in a hilly area or a mountainous area like I am in the Smoky Mountains, you can actually go out there and you can see from the top of the mountain down, you get a gradient from dark to light. And what this is it's the atmosphere. It's the particles in the air, and there's water, there's dust, there's dirt, there's smoke, there's all sorts of stuff. And what happens is it tends to settle down because it's heavier. it'll settle down in the air, and what you get is all those particles tend to wash out whatever's behind it. So that's why if you look in the mountains, you'll see them go from like dark to light, from top to bottom. So that's kind of the effect that I'm going for right here. And as we get further into the drawing, you'll see more and more of that. I keep going in and I keep trying to push the darkness at the top of the hill and then washing it out as I go down. But this is just looking at nature, and it's really important to do. Uh, I think one of the things that are missing in comics is a lot of them don't tend to look at nature enough. It's more, let's look at comics and let's look at our imagination, and not enough, hey, real life type stuff. If you get a really good balance of realistic and imagination, your artwork can just be really incredible. And that's really what I'm going for here, is to get that naturalistic look, but at the same time, it's imagination. We're going to have ships. We've got worlds in the background. It's a fun thing. There's some good illustrators and concept artists out there that have classes online that you can take. They teach everything from color theory to atmospheric perspective drawings. Lots of really good stuff that you need to know as an artist if you're going to move forward. They charge a lot of money, 800. I've seen them for $1,000 for like 8-week classes. They're they're really good, but dang, it's super expensive. The beautiful thing today is you can actually go onto YouTube and find people like me who actually had that sort of training, and they're sitting here training you for free. Isn't that fun? In all seriousness, though, we'll get into a lot more of that detailed stuff, the nitty gritty of it, in our Patreon account, which will be starting up soon. You'll be able to get all that color theory, all the perspective drawing, all of that stuff that you actually learn in fine art schools and illustration departments and concept art classes. That's all the nitty gritty that you really need to know if you're gonna move forward as a working artist. You really need to know all those things, and we're gonna have that for you. So we're starting to finish up on the background bits here. There's a big, beat down, old, tired city in the background where there's all these buildings that at one time are really nice, and now because of a problem, and that'll be more explained in the comic book, the world has kind of descended into a steampunky type area where all the technology is steam powered, sailing, wind power, that sort of stuff, just all the old stuff before technology came along. I'm deliberately leaving the background kind of unambiguous right now, and the reason why is because I actually want to go back in with color possibly and really make that background zing with some coloring effects and lighting effects. So I'm not really too concerned with getting too much detail in it. Don't be afraid to leave things open. You don't have to detail every little thing out. Sometimes you need to leave things up to the observer to kind of imagine what would be there. The more you leave open, the more the imagination will kind of roll around for you. And also, it helps the colorist. If you're using a colorist, they can go back and do all sorts of nice stuff in there to finish that up. Now that we're done with the background and the middle ground there, we're starting to actually work with the foreground, putting in our really dark inks and stuff. I'm using one of those Pentel pens, that brush pens that uh, Jungi Kim has made so popular with his drawings, which are really quite incredible. You should go check him out. His stuff is just incredible. Also using just a Prismacolor ink pen, so I can get some of those fine lines in there. So this is the point where at the beginning of the tutorial I said that I really made a mistake, and it come back to haunt me. So I started putting in these things in the foreground. I realized that the overall framing of the piece was terrible. So what I did is I went back to my computer. I scanned in the big drawing, which I actually didn't record here. I scanned in the big drawing, and I just went in with a black marker or a black brush in Photoshop and started throwing in some black so I could actually get some real depth here and really save the ending of this piece. So after I did that, I just kind of looked over at the computer screen at what I did, and then I came back in here with the ink pens and just drew it all in just like I fixed on the computer. Using the computer is a really, really good tool just for if you're stuck at a point on a painting and you just don't really know what to do, you can always take a picture of the painting, take a scan of the drawing, bring it into the computer, and just go in and say, okay, what do I need to do to this to fix it? So you just play around with it, and then you say, okay, I'm at a good point. I'll just go ahead and take that and do it in the actual piece. Now, it ain't going to look exactly like you did in the computer, but you just get it as close as you can. And what I have here is a pretty good ending to a piece. I was able to get some of these vines and tree bits and this old technology that's all tore down in the foreground and just kind of darken it up and really bring it home at the end. Don't be afraid to holler back. Let me know if you have some general questions or interest in anything in particular. You just want me to explain something better, or you have a particular way you want to see something done. So I hope you enjoyed this little drawing. In total, I believe the process was about 6 to 7 hours long. That's typical for a piece this size. It's 14 by 20, a little larger than your standard comic book page, which is 11 by 17. Thanks for watching. We have another tutorial coming up shortly. Also some product reviews and a big skits reveal. So don't run off. Don't forget to subscribe down below, hit that notification bell, and share our videos. Also check out Come Get Some! A new show hosted by Black Star. She's the host of the universe.